Hello and welcome to this very special interview here on Money Paathshaala. Joining me today is a veteran of the corporate world who is now doing something extremely fascinating. Green. We all understand the importance of sustainability, but how do we create the funding for it? Is it going to be a problem of the government? Clearly not, because the amount of money that is required by every country, especially India, has to, find ways in which we can fund this whole sustainability initiative. And that's the problem that Gurinder Singh Sandhu, who is the CEO and co-founder at Incept Green, is seeking to solve with his partners. He's been a veteran of the corporate world, as I said, over 30 years of experience across multiple leading companies. So it's very interesting to see Gurinder. Welcome, first of all, to the interview. And it's really great to see, having had a successful corporate journey, you're trying to do something that is so critical. So my first question is, what is the problem that you're seeking to solve through Incept Green?
Thank you, Vivek. It's definitely a pleasure to be on your platform. And okay, so let me start with your first question. See, what we are really trying to impact in our own little way is a much larger problem, which is climate change. And we believe climate change is too big. It's too important. It's not just the problem of the government or the corporates. Everyone is culpable, each one of us. Everyone has a role to play and everyone needs to act. And that's pretty much the mission of this company, is to get everyone to act, to, if I may use the word, democratize climate action. Now, interestingly, to the surprise of a lot of people, Indians actually really and deeply worry about the environment. And there are, over 100 million people in India who are actually willing to do something about climate. And they're not just talkers, they are actually doers. And these people are the ones who are willing to switch to green, provided they don't have to pay a premium. It's not charity. It fundamentally needs to make commercial sense to them. And this is where we come in. Instead of penalizing people, Incept rewards people for taking climate action, so that everyone can act on it, so that we don't just have the force of the government behind this, but also the force of people behind solving this problem.
And how do you propose to do that?
Okay, so if you really think about it, as a country, we've made a commitment in COP27 to become net zero by 2070. And this cannot happen without the country shifting completely to clean energy. And clean energy cannot happen without lots and lots of capital. While the government and corporates are definitely going to get us there, but if we can get capital from individuals too, then as a country, we can reach that goal much, much faster. And I think the other important part, and probably the most important part, it makes a lot of sense commercially for individuals to provide this capital. Because one, clean energy projects are extremely low risk. And two, they give actually great returns, and returns which are much, much better than fixed deposits, where a majority of our savings go. So if you, as an individual, fund a clean project, not only, of course, you help the country in achieving its goal, but you can also make significant profits from it. So through Incept, you can fund these clean projects. And we've also developed an app. So through the Incept app, you can track how your investment is doing, see how your project is performing, how are you impacting the environment. In addition, clean energy is just the first step. Once we have a large engaged community of these 100 million, digitally connected through this app, digitally spending, there is so much we can achieve as a community. Think of the collective leverage we can create as a community to support green brands, to encourage green thinking, to support green manufacturers, marketers, amongst a lot of other things. So, and not to mention, of course, the impact of the positive reinforcement via the app on the urge to act in a climate responsive manner. And so if everyone gets involved, everyone starts actually participating in funding fundamentally, green energy projects, there's no reason why we as a country, we can't hit the net zero target much before 2070.
So when you, Gurinder, talk about green energy and, what kind of plants are you talking about? What kind of ventures are you talking about, which would be funded? We'll talk about how they will be funded, but can
Yeah.
you tell us through a little about what's the landscape like right now?
Perfect. Yeah, so we are starting with solar plants, and solar plants both in terms of on rooftop of corporates and institutions, as well as offsite solar plants. And then post which wind is getting a lot of traction. So we will move to wind. We'll also bring in hydro. We'll also bring in ethanol. We'll bring in biomass, and also definitely give people an opportunity to invest behind a lot of EV opportunities. So that's the landscape in terms of the current landscape that and the future landscape roadmap in terms of what are the asset opportunities that we'll bring to individuals.
What is the challenge that some of these producers of this green energy face? Because we do keep reading about the government putting a lot of emphasis on giving loans to such entities, many of which may be small and medium enterprises. But what is the challenge that they face when it comes to funding?
So each clean project, provided it's a certain size, gets a debt funding. Debt funding is not a problem. So it's funded 70% debt and 30% equity. It is the equity where there is a problem. So if I were to just give you a perspective on just solar itself, so every year and this last 12 months, about 5 gigawatts of projects have been added for the CNI space, which is corporates and industrial institutions as they're called. And 5 gigawatts roughly translates to about 25,000 crores. Of this, about 15,000 crores comes from small and medium developers. So if 15,000 crores worth of projects are being deployed by small and mid developers every year for CNI, of this, if about roughly, let's say 2:1 is debt equity funding, the 5,000 crores of equity funding needs to come from these small and mid developers. So there is a limitation to which the kind of capital that they can lock in for extended period of 15, 20, 25 years. So it is this equity funding that what we're trying to solve through getting individuals to finance these projects. And last year, let's say the small and mid developers would have put in about 4 to 5,000 crores. Next year, this is the demand on the demand side. This is expected to double to almost 8 to 10,000 crores. So that's the kind of yearly capex or equity capital that's required from people who are small to mid developers. And so obviously that availability of capital is not there. So unless that capital comes from somewhere, this growth of new projects is going to slow down. And that's what we're trying to fast track.
And how are you seeking to channelize equity to these entities? You made the point earlier about individuals can invest.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Okay, so first of all, it has to be completely within the regulatory framework. So that obviously goes without saying. So that anyone who puts in money knows that this is within the corporate, whether it's the SEBI or the RBI framework. So there are two models, which we are doing largely to fund these climate projects. First is what is called an LLP or a limited liability partnership model. In this, it's you as an individual, you become a partner in an LLP, and the capital that you put into the LLP goes towards building the project. The returns from the project are shared with the partners pro rata to the capital contribution. So this obviously follows completely the LLP Act 2008 as per the guidelines of MCA, and every I needs to be dotted, every T needs to be crossed to ensure that everything is within the regulatory framework. The second is a very interesting model that's actually been there in the country for some time, but over the last year, this is completely with some of the positive changes that have happened from a regulatory perspective. This has become a model which will really help scale up individual capital investment. So this is called this SDI model. It's SDI stands for securitized debt instruments. So in this, fundamentally, what happens is that there is a special purpose vehicle which is set up in the form of a trust. The trust is, overseen by a trustee, which is SEBI nominated. This trust fundamentally buys cash flows from a clean project on one side, and in turn issues financial instruments on the other side to retail investors. And so these instruments are basically debt instruments, and of course, all duly rated by an established credit rating agency like Crystal Care or ICRA. And they are essentially fixed instruments. So with a periodic return of capital till the maturity of the instrument, and the maximum maturity of the instrument, actually can start from anything from 2 to 3 years to go up to almost 10 years. And from a process perspective, the investment is done through private placement, and of course, the cap of the investors has to be to each issue has to be limited to 200. Also, I think another important part is that minimum investment in both the case of an LLP and SDI is about 1 lakh. I mean, well, LLP allows you to take smaller sums, but we are taking a minimum investment of 1 lakh, both in the case of the LLP model or the SDI model.
What are the kind of returns do you propose to offer to people who are investing through this route?
Okay, so the every single renewable energy project in India, delivers upwards of 14% equity IRR. And so what we are offering to retail investors or let's say climate financiers like you and me is an IRR of 12%. The balance, let's say 2% is what the platform will use to acquire you as a customer, or to service you over this extended period of 15, 20, 25 years, which is the typical tenure of the project. So 12% IRR is what is what we are offering.
Is this a guaranteed return?
No, it's not guaranteed, of course. Every asset investment is backed by with the performance of the asset. And the good part is, all the solar assets are actually, the solar industry is extremely mature, and so is actually wind to a large extent. And so you can pretty much predict to almost 99% in terms of what the generation and therefore what the performance of the asset is going to be. But of course, there are always risks associated. So I would call the risk of investing behind an established sector like clean energy as extremely, extremely low. But yes, there are no guarantees. But at the same time, what we are doing is through the LLP and the SDI model, in any case, gives you the liquidity. You can always go and sell the SDI in case you're not confident of how things are going. In the case of the LLP model, also we're giving people the option, if they're not happy with, let's say, if the proceeds are coming on time or not, we are happy to actually, they can exit at any point in time after 12 months, any month. So there is, to that extent, in a lot of ways, whatever little bit of risk that's there, and which always is there with any asset, is kind of covered with the kind of exit option that we're giving to people.
You talked about, galvanizing young people as well. And, while you have a 1 lakh kind of a limit to enter, which is something, say, a young person who, say, probably just taken up a first job may not be able to put in. But at the same time, if you see, it is really the younger people of India who seem to be far more aware, far more concerned about climate than probably people of our generation were. Is there a way for them to put in small amounts of money if they cannot afford to put in, say, 1 lakh at this point?
So yes, there is an option which is what is called a capacity purchase option, wherein you can actually put in as small as 5,000 and buy a slice of a solar asset, and you own the asset. It is GST paid. All the we sell the energy on your behalf for that slice of solar, and we show you on your app what's the energy that's being generated, and therefore what's the daily proceeds that are getting added thanks to the energy that's been sold. And at the end of the month, that money gets pushed into your wallet. So yes, through a capacity purchase option, you can come in with as small as 5,000 and buy into small slices of a solar plant.
One final question, Gurinder. What's the kind of potential that you see in terms of, you did say that, last year was X, this year is Y. But if I were to look at say somebody who's putting in money, what's the kind of time frame that they should ideally look at? You are providing the exit option, the liquidity option, but if somebody were to want to invest in something like this, what's the time horizon that they should? I know it's equity in effect that you're taking, so you must have a long-term view. It's not something that will give you a return in a year or two, but what is the kind of future roadmap next 5-10 years that you're looking at?
Okay. I think so. Two things. Firstly, this is not equity. All right. So, like I said, in the case of an SDI, it's a securitized debt instrument. In the case of an LLP, you become a partner in the LLP, right? So, a partner typically, you can. I mean, he's not really called an equity holder, but a partner pretty much has right to all the profits pro rata to his contribution. So, I'm just saying, technically, it is not equity.
Sure, but the intention is to fund
Yes,
the
the intention
equity
is to stay
component.
long. Yeah, I agree with you completely. Sorry, I was coming to the second point and completely agree. I just wanted to just make just clarify on that. But yes, the intention is to stay in long, and typically, every project, every clean energy project has a life of over 30 years. But when we build a project, when we put it up on either a roof or we put it up outside, there is a contract that's signed with the off-taker. So let's say if just placeholder, if a Unilever, if we build a 10 megawatt project for Unilever, we will sign a power purchase agreement with them for, let's say, 20 years. So typically the projects, the IRRs and all of those that I'm sharing about, the project is keeping in mind a 15, 20, 25-year kind of a tenure of a project. So for consumer, if you are, or me as an investor, if we want to stay in the long, for the long haul and actually continue to generate these kind of returns, you can for 15, 20, 25 years. Or alternatively, like I said, there is always the option, because people from time to time do need liquidity. They do need to, withdraw that cash, and that option is of course there in terms of easy exit option.
It's been wonderful speaking to you. It's really fascinating what you're doing, Gurinder, with your team of co-founders, and I certainly wish you all the best. This is something that is important for all of us, and I'm sure we'll have many more conversations around this as things move ahead at your end. Thank you so much for joining me and speaking on this very important issue.
Thank you so much, Vivek. It's been great engaging with you and sharing with you, what we're trying to do. Thank you so much.